Good morning friends, welcome to the point. In this video we will discuss about an agreement which governed the world trade rules from 1948 to 1995 till the time World Trade Organization came into existence. Starting off with the origin and history of General Agreement on Tariff and Trade. So if you all know that in 1944 there was a conference that was held, that is by the name of Bretton Woods Conference, that led to the establishment of two organizations, that is World Bank and IMF. At the same time there were discussion going to frame certain rules and regulations that could regulate the world trade between the countries. So in 1947, a conference was held in Geneva where 23 countries united and agreed upon certain rules and conditions that would govern the world trade, and that led to the agreement known by the name of General Agreement on Tariff and Trade, that governed the world trade from the time it got into force, that is 1948 to 1994. So 1948 is the year in which it got effective until 1994. In 1995 or 1994-95 World Trade Organization was formed. From 48 to 94, what governed the world trade? It was the General Agreement on Tariff and Trade. So we'll quickly go through the slide. It was formed with an overall purpose to promote international trade by reducing or eliminating trade barriers such as tariffs or quotas. So if you remember, by 1945 the Second World War got over and every country in the world was following a protectionist measure. Now what is this protectionist measure? It is that every country wanted that they should export more and import less, and so as to curb the imports, they were imposing high import duties on the goods coming from the other country, so as to reduce the amount of imports in the country. Now this was hampering or distorting the world trade. That is why a need was felt that something should be brought in place which could govern the world trade and would reduce the duties eventually. So hence this agreement was formed. It was a legal multilateral agreement between many countries. It was signed in 1947 but came in force in January 1st, 1948. It was successful in reducing barriers to trade by reducing the average tariff on industrial goods from 40 to 5%. So it started with 40% and gradually with many rounds of negotiation, the tariffs were reduced to 5% and became the only multilateral instrument and not an institution governing international trade. So one point you have to note here is that it was just an agreement and not an institution. It was a mere agreement that was agreed upon from some 23 countries, and later more countries agreed to it, but it was not an institution like a World Bank or IMF or World Trade Organization. Moving on to the next slide, out the objectives of GATT, why it was formed. First, to phase out the use of import quotas, which was extensively used by the countries that time to protect their economy from increased imports. And next was to reduce the tariff on merchandise trade, which it was successful in reducing from 40% to mere 5%. Next point is that it asks that whether GATT is still in existence. No, it is not in existence, because World Trade Organization has taken over the pre-existing GATT. No GATT was replaced by WTO in 1995. Uruguay round of GATT negotiations started in September 1986 and got concluded in 1994 with the formation of World Trade Organization. So this negotiation almost lasted for some 8 years, and that led to the more developed form of GATT, that is World Trade Organization, because there were certain shortcomings that GATT faced and that need to be worked upon. So the WTO was formed. One question that must arise in your head is that whether those 23 original countries remain the same or there were more countries that joined GATT. So to tell you that by the end of GATT, that was around 94 or 95, 128 countries were the member of GATT. Moving on to the next slide, which is about the limitations faced by GATT that led to the formation of WTO. So first limitation that GATT faced was that there was no institutional framework, since it was just an agreement that was agreed upon certain countries. There was no institutional framework that was later provided by World Trade Organization. So WTO incorporated the principles of GATT and provided a more institutional framework for implementing and extending them. The next limitation that GATT faced was that it was ad hoc and provisional in nature, since it was an agreement and that was on ad hoc or say temporary basis, because the countries thought that till the time nothing is in place, let's just get the world trade regulated by this agreement, and later when something more concrete is in picture, we could eliminate it and can follow the new evolved framework. So it was just ad hoc or say temporary in nature, and it was never ratified by the member countries. It was just signed. So there's a difference between signing the agreement and ratifying it. Signing is just becoming the part, and ratifying is that you have started implementing it. So the member countries, or most of them, just signed it and never ratified got it ratified in their parliaments. The third limitation it faced was that GATT just dealt with goods. So whereas this trade in services and intellectual property was not covered, which was later covered by World Trade Organization. So this is one of the major limitation that GATT faced, that it just dealt with goods or the trade in goods. The last point is that there was no dispute settlement mechanism in place. So the dispute settlement mechanism that GATT was having was very lax, or there was no the timeline in place as to settlement of dispute, which kept on issues going for years and years. That later got solved by WTO, though this was a major limitation that GATT faced, that there was no specific timelines to get the issue resolved. So friends, I have covered most of the aspects related to GATT. About World Trade Organization, we will talk about in the later video, just the upcoming video. As of now, what you need to remember is that when was GATT formed, and what were the limitations that it faced that led to the formation of World Trade Organization. So friends, just go through the slides once again when the video is over. This is all for the today's video, my friends. Stay fit, stay at home, don't go out unnecessarily, and if you go out, please don't forget to wear your mask. Thank you so much.